Hey everybody. Everybody seems to think tunnels are cool. I know I do. Even train tunnels that I don't get to go through or anything. I've gone through them. I have been out on locomotives before in this territory. But my ex-wife and I once were on vacation and we drove about 20 miles out of our way just to drive through the Eisenhower Tunnel, got the other end of it, made a U-turn and came back through it and went on our merry way. But for some reason, a lot of people seem to be fascinated with tunnels. So I thought I'd do a little piece on the tunnels between Bakersfield and Tehachapi. Even some of them that are no longer here. I'll show you where they used to be. A couple of them may be hard to find. I've really never looked for them before, but I'm pretty sure where they are. Anyway, let's get going on a little tour of the railroad tunnels between Bakersfield and Tehachapi. Okay, this is where Tunnel Half used to be. The reason it was called Tunnel Half is because it was built after the rest of the tunnels. The original line came up the inside of the canyon down there where you can see that curve where the tracks go around there now. Well, it used to come on the inside of the canyon there. Once you got around that curve, the tracks were on the south side of the canyon, not the north side like they are now. They came up and they came across a trestle that was right down there around where those big trees right there are, and came up along here. And I would imagine this is probably the old roadbed right here. It's pretty flat and level all the way down there where it's kind of sloughed off over the years, but you can still see the riprap, the rocks along the edge there. And it went around the edge of that hill there and followed the creek, and there was another trestle that actually was in the creek. It went around that hill and then tied back in up on the other side of where Tunnel Half was. They had a couple of major floods down Caliente Creek between 1876. I can't remember, it was around 1900 when they did the line change. I'll have to look that up in my history book. But so they made the line change. They punched a hole through that hill right there and made Tunnel Half. I don't remember how long Tunnel Half was, but I'll look into that too. But then in 1983, when they had the super floods, this whole section got wiped out. Everything from right about here all the way down to Bena was pretty much wiped out. The track, there were places where a half a mile of track was just hanging in the air. Maybe I'll do a piece on the 83 flood sometime. But anyway, when that happened, this was single track. Prior to that, the east end of Illman, the siding of Illman, was right down around that curve, and the west end of Caliente was up there about, I think it was about another half mile past where Tunnel Half is. But anyway, at the flood they decided to double track all of this, so they daylighted Tunnel Half in 1983, blew it up, opened it all up, dug it out, and double tracked through here, and that is where we are today. Tunnel Half. As I was pulling out, I looked over and noticed this and remembered this was here. I've always known it was here, I just kind of forgot about it. But that's the east side of Tunnel 2 there, looking down into that curve. And all this concrete chunks and blocks and all that wadded up old rebar, not those ties right there, but all the rest of that crap are the remnants of Tunnel Half. When they daylighted it, they just pushed all this crap out here, made a little berm out of it, a little extra flood control, and there it sits. What's left of Tunnel Half. Okay, here is the first of the tunnels that still exists, and this is Tunnel 1. Its stamped date on the concrete is 1917. It was rebuilt from a timber tunnel to a concrete tunnel at that time. And this tunnel is 232 feet long. It's on a nice little curve, as are a lot of the tunnels on the mountain. Very few of them are on straight track. As a matter of fact, I think Tunnel 5 may be the only one that doesn't have much of a curve in it. But anyway, this is the west portal of Tunnel 1. I'm not going to go to the east portal because I would either have to walk through the tunnel to get to it, which I don't want to do because there's a bunch of trains in the area, or I'd have to walk over that hill, which I'm not going to do. And the right-of-way access to the other side of this tunnel has a lock on the gate that I don't have a key to. And there's also a pretty steep hill that you have to climb to get up here. And while my work truck's four-wheel drive and goes up it all right, my GMC sled is not a four-wheel drive and doesn't have any weight in the rear end. I probably couldn't even get up that hill. But I can assure you that the east portal of this tunnel looks pretty much like the west portal. So anyway, that is going back down towards Caliente. And you can see way down there's Caliente down there. Sorry for the wiggly. All right, moving on. All right, this is the west portal, or the north portal, of Tunnel 2. The date on this one, as you can see up there, it's hard to see, but it's 1917. I know this tunnel was here before then, but this was originally, as were all of the tunnels on the mountain that weren't just supported by the rock they were bored through, were all lined with wood. They were timber tunnels. And so evidently this is one that they rebuilt and cemented in 1917. Tunnel 2 is 210 feet long, and it's got a pretty sharp curve going through it. And something I didn't mention on Tunnel 1 is you can see that notch there on the upper left corner of the tunnel there. Back when it was still Southern Pacific and Santa Fe running up here, when they started utilizing double stack container trains, Southern Pacific wasn't going to run the double stacks, but Santa Fe was. The tops of the containers, the clearance was too close to the tunnels, so Santa Fe paid to come and notch all these tunnels. This one is only notched on the low side of the curve, on the inside of the curve. Some of them are notched on both sides, but they did that for clearance on the double stack containers. Southern Pacific had to put high-wide detectors at Bena and Southern Pacific. They already had their high-wide detector at Bena just for tunnel clearances, but they had to put one out in the desert. We put that, I was a gang foreman when we did that. We put that high-wide detector out by Lancaster around Avenue G or something like that. I can't even remember now, it's been so long ago. But that way, if there were any double stack containers, any loads that were that high, Southern Pacific would have to pay Santa Fe or some weird thing like that to use it. Southern Pacific never did run double stack containers though. And when Union Pacific took over in 1996, they started running double stacks, and they told by then it was the BNSF as well. Santa Fe had merged with Burlington Northern, and their position was they had no agreement in place with anyone as far as using double stacks, and so they started running double stacks, and they didn't have to pay the BNSF. The courts ended up agreeing with Union Pacific, so Santa Fe did all this work, and Union Pacific got to utilize it without having to pay for any of it. Big business. Anyway, that is the west or north portal of Tunnel 2. Okay, please forgive my laziness on this particular segment because standing on top of Tunnel 2 right now, and the reason I didn't actually drive down there to get a shot of the east portal of Tunnel 2 is because I'd have to either go way back down there and go through a locked gate, which I may or may not have a key to, drive on that dirt road over there around the other side of that hill, and there's other gates, and oh, what a pain. I just didn't want to do that. So I am standing on the top of Tunnel 2, and the east portal is right there, right down below us. It's almost right across from that telephone pole, actually. And right there, the signals there they are. That is the west end of Bealville, or the north end if you're a Union Pacific person. But anyway, this is also one of the places where the railroad between Caliente and Tehachapi makes a 180-degree turn. This is the second of them. Coming up from Bakersfield, you see there that goes around there. I actually have a video up on my channel here of a train actually going through that, shot from pretty much the same vantage point. I'll link that in the description below. You can check that out. But anyway, this is Tunnel 2, and we will move on. Okay, here we are at the west portal of tunnel number 3. Tunnel number 3 is milepost 340.82. It's just around the curve there. The east switch at Bealville is just around the curve. You see the radio house there. And tunnel number 3 is 497 feet long. It's a little bit shorter than it was when it was originally built. And we'll go around to the other portal and show you some of the interesting things over there and talk a little bit more about the history of this tunnel. Okay, this is the east portal, or the south portal of Tunnel 3. The portal of this tunnel used to be about where I'm standing right now. 250 feet of it was daylighted after the 1952 earthquake. It was too badly damaged to repair, so they just cut the hill back to there, got rid of that part of the tunnel. Okay, I've come right up to the portal of Tunnel 3, and as you can see right there, the date stamps, the original completion date of this tunnel in 1876 on the left, and the date it was rebuilt in 1952 on the right. But anyway, head on up to Tunnel 4, which is right there. Well, what's left of it. Okay, these are the ruins of Tunnel number 4. Tunnel number 4 was too badly damaged in the 1952 earthquake to repair, and so they just made a line change, went around it there on this side. You can see where the edge of the hill that it went through used to be, so there was quite a bit of excavation work involved in getting rid of this tunnel, but evidently it was worth it, as I understand the repair on this would have been extensive. Now, the fault line that caused the 1952 earthquake is called the White Wolf Fault, and it runs from Caliente, which is about a couple miles down that canyon there, across these hills to out by the base of the Grapevine on the other side of, somewhere on the other side of Lamont. And the White Wolf Fault itself is right there. Goes right up the side of the house, right through the middle of the tunnel, and up across that hill, bends off to the right a little bit up the top of the hill there. But that's where the actual fault is, and that is the main reason that they decided not to rebuild this tunnel. When they put it there, they obviously didn't know there was a fault there. And no point taking a chance on repairing that and having this just happen again. But anyway, at the ruins of tunnel number 4. I have a picture of that from about 10, 12, 15 years ago. I don't know. Someone had painted Tomb of the Unknown Laborer on it. I noticed that it's not on there anymore. I thought that was kind of funny. But anyway, we'll move on up to tunnel 5, which goes through that hill right there. All right, we have moved up a little ways here to the west portal of tunnel number 5. Tunnel number 5 is by far the longest tunnel on the mountain. It's 1,175 feet long, and is down at tunnel 3. You can see the two dates, the original build date of 1826 and the rebuild date of 1952. Tunnel 5 was also heavily damaged in the 1952 earthquake. But it was, as you can see, way too big of a mountain to daylight this, so they just had to repair the tunnel. It took them a considerable amount of time to do it, and in the meantime, they built a shoe fly across Clear Creek Canyon over there to tie in to the other end of the tunnel. And we'll get up there and give a little more history about that. One more little historical note before we leave this end of Tunnel 5. Back in the days before reliable air brake systems, the brakemen rode on top of the trains, and they jumped from car to car and applied the brakes from the top of the car. It was a very dangerous job. I don't know how many guys were killed and maimed doing it, but it had to have been a significant number. But anyway, they had structures that were at the entrances to tunnels, and they went up and across the tracks. All the ones I ever saw were made out of wood. They had ropes that hung down from them, and if the brakeman wasn't paying attention, the ropes would drag across him, and he would know they're approaching a tunnel, and he would make sure he was sitting down so he wouldn't get wiped off the top of the train by the tunnel. And when I came here in 1984, started working up here, the structure for this end of Tunnel 5 was still here, and this is about where it was. I don't know if there was a standard as far as how close they were to tunnels, but I don't remember when they took it out. I just remember seeing it. At that time, I didn't know what it was, and I asked my boss, Bill Stocco, about it, and he explained it to me. And I also have pictures of the ones that were at the entrance to, at this portal of Tunnel 4 and or Tunnel 3. I can't remember. I'll put a picture of that up in there so you can get an idea of what they look like. Okay, this is the east portal, tunnel number 5. As you can see, it's a lot nastier than all the rest of them. A lot more soot and stuff. So when the train's such a long tunnel and it's a real steep climb through here, when the trains come out of there, there's always a big blast of smoke. It's not as bad as it used to be. Trains are a little more efficient now, but it builds up in the tunnel. The train drags it out, and I always thought it looked pretty cool. You come out of Tunnel 5, right in to the west end of Cliff. And up there in that curve, you can see that cut there. That's where Tunnel 6 once was. Before the 1952 earthquake, this was single track through here. It went through Tunnel 6, and when you emerge from Tunnel 6, which is about almost a 90-degree turn, but when it came out of Tunnel 6, it went into the west end of Cliff then. But when they daylighted Tunnel 6 after the 52 earthquake, they extended the siding down to here. So a little bit on Tunnel 5 and Tunnel 6. All right, this is the west portal of Tunnel 7. Sorry for the lighting, it's early in the morning. You can see there the date of 1918. I actually shot the other side of this tunnel first, and it has the 1919 date on it, which is the date they went from timber to concrete. So I guess they finished this side of the tunnel first. Maybe they finished this side in December of 1918 and the other side in December 1919. Who knows? I don't. But anyway, interesting little factoid. And this is the control point for the east end of Cliff, the siding of Cliff. Switch is right there. As you can see, this is pretty much perched on the edge of a cliff, all the way from here down to the other end, where you saw when we came out of Tunnel 5 there. That's the west end of Cliff. And as soon as it goes around that curve where Tunnel 6 used to be, the whole thing is pretty much like this. Some of it's really steep like that. Some of it's not so steep, but it's still a hell of a long way down to the bottom of Tehachapi Creek. But anyway, okay, we are up between Tunnel 7 and 8 now. This is the east portal of Tunnel number 7. That is the new facing signal for CPSP 344, which is the east end of Cliff. Prior to the new signal system being installed, there was an intermediate signal. Up there where those buildings in the center of frame are, there's now just, that's the control house for a slide fence. You can see those posts going along the tracks there, and the concrete abutment up there, retaining wall, keep everything from sloughing off down the side of the hill. And that is the west portal of Tunnel number 8. I'm not going to go up there. That's a long hike, and I don't feel like hiking up there. And it doesn't look any different than Tunnel 7. But anyway, the slide fence up there, it's to keep the, if the rocks should come down that side of that hill there, they'll break wires on that slide fence. It works a little differently than the one up between Tunnel 14 and 15, which I will do a segment on. But this particular one has wires that have a circuit running through the entire length of the fence, and all the wires just back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And if one of those wires gets broken, it opens a circuit and puts the signals coming in here to stop, just in case there's a rock slide that should block the tracks. And walk up here and get a shot over the edge. All right, walked up here towards this first retaining wall. See the concrete there. And that is down the bottom of Tehachapi Creek. And I don't know, it's not a real good judge of height or anything. It's probably 400, 500, 600 feet down there, I guess. I don't know. Longer than I'd want to fall or roll my truck. These trees right here, back under there on that curve somewhere, there's an old tank car. I don't know if it was an oil car or a water car. I don't even know if I ever knew. I just remember you used to be able to see it. It's pretty much buried by those trees now. But there were an old legend about a steam engine being down there too, but that's not true. No engine ever went. That water car was part of a derailment in the 20s or 30s. Bill Stoker told me about it, and they just pushed it over the edge, get it out of the way, and get things going again. In between those two trees there, just behind them there, in between them, you can see those rocks. During the rainy parts of the year and into the early spring, there's a nice cool little waterfall right there. And when you're working up here, you can hear it. Sounds really cool. And it's very beautiful up here when everything's green. It's pretty scenic still, but not as beautiful as it is when it is green. All right. Moving on up. Well, as usual, my video of the tunnels has done what most of my other videos do, run a lot longer than I expected them to. So I'm going to bust this one in half. Gonna stop here, give you a break, pick up on the rest of the tunnels going up the hill in the next segment. I hope you join me. I hope you enjoyed this one. As usual, like, subscribe, share. If you have any ideas or comments, leave them in the section below. Shoot me an email, and we'll see you at the next segment.